and welcome to episode 73 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in Northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab on Ravelry, you will find our group right there. Also in that group, you will find a chatter thread about this episode, and I will link to that and everything else I mention just down below. As always, I want to kick off by saying a massive welcome and thank you to any new viewers. I really appreciate you giving the podcast a shot, and thank you especially to my returning viewers. I really appreciate you coming back every episode. I have just had to film that again. We are currently dog sitting. My cousin's standard Yorkshire Terrier Rosie is staying with us, and she likes hanging out with me in my room, and I thought, great, she can like chill. She's normally quite chilled. Maybe she'll even pop up and make a little furry co-host appearance. And this was the time she decided that actually no, we needed to play. So yeah, I think the sock is dead. She gave me one of my socks and was like, throw this, make tug of war. So yeah, that is why I've had to refilm this bit. I've taken her downstairs to like hang out with my mum and nan. So today's tea is in my Hufflepuff mug, which is one of my favourites. It's just a really nice shape, this. So it's like nice to hold, to warm your hands up. I like the shape of the handle, plenty of room. Not trying to like squeeze your fingers in there. So I really like this mug. This is another Bird and Blend tea. I think I spoke before about how I tidied up my tea shelf, and now I've got a little section in there that's like a lucky dip. So I just reach in without looking and pluck out some of the random packets that I've got. And this is Earl Grey creme. Our award-winning Earl Grey with a hint of vanilla. We love it with a splash of milk or as a frothy latte. So I'm gonna give it a try. I have tried it. It's really nice. I think Bird and Blend do a really lovely Earl Grey, and you know I love an Earl Grey, so obviously I enjoy it. The vanilla isn't strong or overpowering, but I'm not sure that it adds anything to it. I'm not a massive fan of just flavouring things with vanilla, because I think sometimes it can taste like a false sweetness, and I'm a massive fan of vanilla. I think vanilla is delicious. I also love the smell. When I was a teenager, I used to wear the Body Shop vanilla perfume because I thought it was really classy. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of putting like vanilla flavourings in teas and such like, because it just doesn't really do it for me. This is not overpowering, so I can definitely enjoy the flavour. But if I wanted to add a sweetness to a tea, I'd probably just put sugar in it. So yeah, it's not a deal breaker for me at all, but it's not one of my favourites. So yeah, I probably wouldn't buy a box of Earl Grey creme. I would buy a box of their Earl Grey. We are still in lockdown here in London. It is early May. It's the bank holiday weekend. We have just celebrated the anniversary of VE Day yesterday, 75 years since VE Day. And yeah, it's still lockdown. This beautiful day. I'll be taking the dog out for a walk later. That'll be our allotted exercise. But as always, staying in is not the hardship that other people are experiencing. And again, I just want to express my thanks and my gratitude to people on the front line, be they NHS workers, doctors, nurses, people who work in hospitals, or people who work in supermarkets or in TfL, not just TfL, but in all public transports, because you are keeping people fed, you are getting people to work, and you are helping save lives. And yeah, maybe I don't like staying in all this time, but honestly, it's the least I can do to make that easier for you. But now let's move on to Whipped Up. There seems to be a bit of a theme recently over the last few episodes where I don't have much to show, and I'm fairly monogamous with my making. So I've pretty much got myself down to 2 whips at this point, and I had a lot more at the beginning of the year. And at the beginning of the year I was kind of thinking there's no way I'm going to get through these, but with lockdown I have found it really useful, and actually the only way I can function is by doing one thing at a time. I'm really struggling to multitask at the moment. And I don't know about anyone else, but I'm really struggling to read. Like, I get to the bottom of a page and I kind of think, I took none of that in, none of that has penetrated, what's happening? And that's really stressful because reading is a real happy place for me. It's nice to have an escape. So yeah, that has been a struggle that I haven't been able to do that. I have been enjoying podcasts. So Twilight in Quarantine from the Hot and Bothered podcast has been really fun and really light. I've enjoyed the fact that we started with the Deathly Hallows on Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. So I'm wondering if maybe I should look into getting some audiobooks. Because apparently my listening concentration is a lot better than my reading. So all that to say, there is not a huge amount of content this week, but I am very happy with the content I do have to show. First up is a faux, and yes, it is the cowl that I knit for my friend. So this is the Pearl Drop Cowl by Celine Leroux, and I used an unknown yarn which my friend gifted me after her mother passed away, but I also held it double with some yarn I had in my stash. Now, the yarn I was using that my friend gifted me was very fluffy, and I was worried that she might find it a bit too toothy against her skin. So I thought I would hold it double with another yarn. And I had the perfect yarn. When I was in Edinburgh for my 30th, it was the first time I'd attended the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. It was my 30th birthday kind of treat and experience, and I bought several skeins of yarn with the intention of making a Hogwarts inspired Find Your Fade. I was going to do Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, so I was obviously going to get red, green, blue and yellow, and I wanted to get purple because that's the school colour. So I ended up buying bluebells from Old Maid and Aunt, and that is what I held double with this because my Find Your Fade never came together. It was way too big, it wasn't quite right. I'm hoping to do a big shawl at some point this year, but that wasn't the one for me. And it has been sat in my stash for a long time, wondering what to do with it, and it paired perfectly with this. It's got some stellina in it, but it is just merino nylon, and it has just smoothed out the very fluffy yarn, and there's a little bit of sparkle in it. Oh, it's just lovely. I love the pattern. It has blocked beautifully. Absolutely beautifully. I hope you can see the pattern. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see anything. But it is very warm today, so I'm not going to keep this on for very long. But there we go. Look how beautiful that is. Such a lovely pattern. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. I've probably just messed up my hair. I'm really happy with it. It's really smooth on the other side because it's all knit stitches with just this little kind of moss stitch detail. So it feels really nice against the skin now. And to be honest, I think it would have felt nice against the skin even with just the kind of other yarn, but I love how it looks. I'm really, really happy with how it looks. So yeah, that is a faux. And I will be wrapping this up and writing a little letter to go in with it. And popping that in the post on Monday and sending her that. So she will get it in plenty of time before Ramadan ends. The post is a bit on the slow side at the moment. But yeah, she will get this hopefully before Ramadan ends, and I hope she will love it, and I hope she will wear it. I think it will look really beautiful against her skin tone. I'm just really happy with this. I would definitely knit the pattern again. It's pretty mindless. Apart from the section in the middle with the diamond shapes, and I found that really slow going for 2 or 3 rounds until I memorized the cable repeat, and then once I knew what to do with each cable, I wasn't having to keep flicking back up to what it meant, which I found a lot easier, a lot more intuitive, and it's just lovely. I'm really proud of that. I don't really wear cowls because I find they just end up kind of having to like push them up against my neck. But yeah, I hope she will love it. So there we go. A faux for someone else. Now, there is only one more thing to share with you really that I have been working on. It is, of course, my cozy stripes. Before I go any further, I just want to say this is based on the granny stripe pattern by Attic 23, and is just various yarns, mostly leftovers from projects and minis and swaps. So yeah, lots and lots in here. Now this, as I have said a million times before, is a fantastic project for when I am not feeling like I have much brain space. I will just show you. I have finished all my advent yarns and I have moved my progress keeper to a new space. This is where I started my brand new magic ball, and I have it here. And basically all I did was I grabbed 5 yarns out of my mini my minis stash, and tied them together while I was watching some TV and started on it. I'm really curious about what my mini stash is going to look like when this is finished. This is halfway or so. I'm going to show you how long it is. So this is the top. And that's the bottom. I don't know if you can see. That's the bottom. So it's quite deep at this point. It's double bed width. It's beautiful. I love it. It's about halfway. Yeah, I don't really know what my mini stash is going to look like when this is finished. It's going to be severely depleted. But yeah, I just really enjoy whipping up these little magic balls. Even just the making of a magic ball in itself is quite soothing. And I found this a really good downtime project for while I was working on the cowl. The cowl took some thought. I had to check back with the pattern for each row. I had to concentrate. So it was really good for when I had the brain space to do that. So it was quite good when I had my week off, or when I was just chilling of an evening. But I really, really need an autopilot project, and I don't want to cast on any socks at the moment because I really do want to clear my needles as much as possible. So this is fairly ideal at the moment. So there we go. That is what I've been working on, but I do have a couple more things that I wanted to show you. Now that my cowl is finished, I can start working on the Kerrytown pullover. The reason I put the cowl ahead of the Kerrytown, even though the Kerrytown had been on the needles for a very long time, is purely because it was a deadline. I knew it was a special time for my friend because it was Ramadan, and I wanted to get this finished and sent to her as a Ramadan gift. So it had a deadline. I needed to get it done. So I'm really glad that that is done and off the needles, and now my thinking project can be my Kerrytown. And this is my Harry Potter Dumbledore's Army bag that I was gifted by a single strand. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a little wand just there, which is great. I actually think looking at the wand that's Voldemort's wand. That is Voldemort's wand. It's awkward, isn't it? I haven't looked in here for a while. Now, the Kerrytown is by Annie Lupton, and I am knitting it in Willow and Lark Ramble. I believe this is the Oxblood colourway. I will double check and put it up on screen. I love Ramble. I think it's a really lovely yarn. It's really soft. It is 100% wool. It's really, really soft. Now this is as far as I have ever gotten. Oh, and look, no! Oh gosh! The end stoppers have fallen off. Okay. So to find the end stoppers, this is as far as I'd gotten when I started it. So I'd completed the ribbing, and I had made a start on the pattern, which you can see just there between these two stitch markers. And these are the stitch markers that I got from Katrinkles for Stitches West 2018 when I went, which is a really nice memory to have. So there we go. That's literally it. I think I got a little bit disheartened. I think I got a bit disheartened because I was getting some slight gaps with my cables, or at least I thought I was, but now I'm looking at them. They look fine. I don't know what I was complaining about. And now I'm looking at this, I'm kind of thinking maybe I won't edit the podcast immediately, and maybe I will just work on my Kerrytown, because this looks like a juicy cable section to work on. So yeah, if the podcast is a bit late, it's because I've been working on my Kerrytown. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to working on this again. I think the colour will suit me. It will be a great Christmas jumper, and I'm really excited to work on this. I also found a couple of little mini projects that I want to work on coming up over the next few weeks. The first is this. This was a free gift from Molly Makes. It was designed by Paloma Rocha of Neuerland, and it was for issue 71. And I don't have the issue anymore, unfortunately, but I did manage to find the pattern online. I don't have a printer, but I'm gonna have a go at tracing it directly off the screen and see if that works. So I'd love to make that. I've kept it for ages meaning to make it, but because it's been like tucked away in my big Notions bag, I just never got round to making it. So that is something I want to make. I love how vintage she looks. She reminds me the colours and the styling of a little plastic one that we had when I was tiny. She eventually kind of balded and fell completely to pieces, so we had to get rid of her. I also found these. Now this was a free gift from the world of cross stitching. I have no idea when, but it's these tiny little mice from Margaret Sherry. Putting up baubles and wearing little Santa hats and carrying holly, and I think they are absolutely gorgeous. And the pictures are clear enough that I could probably work out the pattern, despite the fact I no longer have the actual patterns. So I kind of want to stitch those and give them as Christmas cards to my mum and my nan, and maybe make one of them into a little Christmas tree decoration. So I want to get those done. Again, it was hidden away with this, and that's why I've never got round to making them. So I'm gonna have a go at doing those over the next couple of weeks. And speaking of Katrinkles, the last time I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which was a couple of years ago now, I picked up from the Isolde stand a couple of Katrinkles items. So I picked up the little wooden jumper, and I believe the sock, or was it the mitten? And they've got holes in, and you stitch them in order to make decorations. Again, this is a very Christmassy themed bit. I don't know why I have all these Christmas things that I want to do. Can you hear the barking? That is the pup. Okay, so I've let the puppy back in. I call her a puppy. She's really not a puppy, but I've let the dog back in. She's under the bed, so she's probably fine. I think she's protesting because I put everything on the bed. Like, I usually have stuff hanging up on the door here, and I put everything on the bed, so there's not much room for her to curl up as she usually would. But yes, while I was at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I bought these things. I'd seen them online, I really wanted them. I've never made them. I don't know for the life of me where they are. Usually things are kept in here. So in here I've got my Cowl interchangeable set. This red and white is my crochet hook set, and in here just a few other random kind of Cowl mostly needles, and my pom-pom gauge ruler, I think that's what they're called. Pop that back. And then in this one I keep all my overflow notions, so my big boxes of stitch markers and things like that. Spare stitch markers, cable needles, everything like that goes in there. So usually that is where I would put little kits. I would put them in the main body. That's where the fairy and the mice cross stitch were. So I think they're probably tucked into my stash somewhere. So I want to find those and work on those. So yeah, that'd be a few more little projects kind of not just sat there languishing, waiting to be worked on, which I think is kind of sad. They need working on. So there we go. That's kind of a lot of coming up, lots of little bits and pieces that I want to work on, and I'm hoping to work on over this long weekend. But I do have a little bit of stash acquisition to share as well. Now, at the beginning of this segment, I said that I had bought a skein of Bluebells by Old Maiden Aunt, and I'd got that a few years ago at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I was going to use it to work on my cowl. Now, I'm not a very good judge. I knew that I'd used a few yards of it, several yards of it, to make a start on my Find Your Fade, and I panicked that I wasn't going to have enough to do the cowl. I'm also hyper aware that the post is slow, so I didn't want to wait and see and then order some. As it happens, I had this much left, which is the perfect amount to put into my crochet stripes blanket. But I'd already ordered a whole skein. So yes, this is Old Maiden Aunt. It is 75 superwash merino, 20% nylon, 5% stellina. It's 100 grams, about 400 yards. And it's truly gorgeous. You can see why I got it for a Hogwarts Find Your Fade, because this is Hogwarts. This is Albus Dumbledore. This is gorgeous. I don't really know what to do with it. It's stunning. It's just a beautiful addition to my stash. I kind of don't want to use it just for heels, toes and cuffs, so I'm thinking at some point this year when I get on that wildly coloured shawl that I want to knit, potentially this is one of the contenders. And then of course we have my lovely friend Amy, who I am just unbelievably proud to call my friend. I think she's a wonderful human being. What I love about Amy is that she puts her money where her mouth is. I know she has done collections before based on RuPaul's Drag Race, and a percentage of profits from that have gone to supporting a local LGBTQIA+ charity, and I think that is wonderful. And during this lockdown crisis, she produced 2 new colourways called Don't Touch Your Face and Wash Your Hands. And this is Wash Your Hands. And of course I had to get this because look at the blues and the greens and the pinks, and it's gorgeous. This is Superwash Merino Nylon, and as I said, yeah, it's Wash Your Hands. And a percentage of the money made from these skeins will help the NHS have the PPE they require. And I just think that's amazing of Amy to be inspired by a terrible time and try to make something beautiful and also try to help as well. So I'm incredibly proud of her for that. And that's part of the reason I bought it. But I also wanted to make something beautiful out of this time. And again, I think this will go into a larger piece. In fact, they do look quite nice together, so perhaps they will go in it together. But that is my latest stash. I always end up sounding like Sean Connery when I try to say this, but this is my latest stash acquisition, or latest stash acquisition, which is a terrible Sean Connery impression. But now let's move on to Knit and Natter. In this week's Knit and Natter, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to talk a bit about the Summer of Socks Cowl and also about my experience in quarantine, because they are kind of tied up. Now, in the last episode, I talked about perhaps bringing the start date of the Summer of Socks Cowl forward into May, because a lot of people are knitting socks at the moment and it'd be quite nice to have something unifying to do at the moment. I have decided not to. Now, the reason for that is because I personally am struggling with concentration and various other things, and it's just one more thing on my plate that I don't think I could handle at the moment. And also I'm not knitting socks at the moment, and it seems a shame not to get involved in your own cowl. So I'm hoping that I will feel up to running it come June, but I just wanted to let you know that that is why I am not doing it. Now that kind of sounds a bit doom and gloomy, and I don't want you to worry about me because I am absolutely fine, or as fine as you can be in quarantine. But I am struggling in some ways. So for me, as you have probably noticed through Whipped Up, I am focusing on one project at a time pretty much, and I'm finding that is a really meaningful way for me to get through this. Usually I have a quite scattered energy. I love multitasking. I love kind of knitting and podcasting and going out with friends and working out, and I love having multiple things going on all at once. But I can't do that right now. As I said, I'm really struggling to read. I just don't have the concentration to remember anything that happens from the top of the page to the bottom. And I find that working on one project at a time really allows me to concentrate and get through things. I had really big hopes that I was going to do big things in quarantine. I was going to revamp the channel, and I was going to learn to sew, and I was going to get Michelle Obama arms and a 6-pack. And that just hasn't happened. I have revamped the channel, and thank you so much to everybody who said you liked the new opening credits. I really appreciate it. And to everybody who left comments on my first Gold Power video, thank you so much. But much as I wanted to do that, there's more that I want to do. Like, I want to revamp the banner, and I want to launch Frocktails, and I did a lot of work to get to where it currently is, and I've kind of lost motivation on it, and that's absolutely fine. It will come back. But one of the really big things is I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, and I don't want to push myself beyond what I can currently do. So my quarantine life looks very small at the moment. I'm going for runs as much as I can because running is something that I did anyway. I did try to add other workouts to my kind of workout schedule and it just didn't stick, because I really enjoy the familiarity and the comfort of running rather than trying something new. And the same with my knitting. I really enjoy doing things that are familiar and comfortable, and it feels good to do those right now. It feels like the world and her wife is doing Zoom calls and FaceTime and a lot of virtual meetups, and I'm not. I spend a lot of my time at work doing virtual meetings, either audio or video a lot of the time, and I feel kind of digital meetinged out by the end of the workday. I'm also not somebody that ever really FaceTimed anyone either. I was not a big FaceTimer or video caller ever. I'm not a big telephone chatter. I'm very much a texter. At most I will send a voice memo. And the reason for that is because I do have that scattered energy. I'm always running around doing things, and finding the time to sit down and have a chat with somebody on FaceTime or on a phone call is really difficult. And I pretty much do all my phone calls that way when I'm on my way somewhere. And right now I can't face the idea of FaceTiming people because it highlights to me how much life has changed, and that doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel sad. So I don't do it. And that's why I am trying to keep my life as familiar and as normal as possible, by continuing to communicate the way I've always communicated, by continuing to do things that I have always done, rather than trying to add new strings to my bow. And you know, there is potentially a chance that when this is over, I will look back and go, gosh, I should have used that time more wisely. I should have done more with that time. But actually, I don't have to do anything with this time apart from get through it. And there are days that is a real struggle. I feel really down about the fact that I'm losing time. There are things that I can't go out and do. You know, for example, I had a week off that I was planning to go hiking on and cycling, and I can't now do that. I will do it in the future, but I wasn't able to do it then. This weekend I should have been doing the Walk for Wight challenge from one side of the Isle of Wight to the other, which I did last year, and I've lost that opportunity to do it this year. And I think there is a lot of grief involved in quarantine at the moment, because I've lost a couple of opportunities to go away. I'm losing opportunities to celebrate birthdays with friends, to spend time with friends. I'm losing the opportunity to start dance classes and various other things that I wanted to do. And all of these things will come later, but I have to grieve for the moments I'm losing now. And I think that's entirely fine, and I think we are all experiencing that grieving process, and I think that's normal, and I think it's fine. If you are somebody who has decided to learn a new skill during quarantine, and you're finding that that is motivating you and filling you up and giving you joy, that is absolutely amazing. And I'm so happy for you, and I'm really, really glad that that is helping you. But if you are somebody more like me, who is unable to do that and just needs to keep their brain space in a familiar place, that's also fine. I wanted to share that because obviously when I'm on this podcast, I've washed and dried my hair and I've put makeup on, and even now in quarantine, I'm presenting a sunny disposition. And this is not untrue. Because I really enjoy podcasting. Podcasting is one of the familiar things that I'm really enjoying doing right now. But it's not the whole truth. And there are definitely days when I feel sad and when I grieve for the things I could be, should be doing now. And there are days when I just lay on my bed and stare at the ceiling and listen to music. And that's fine. All of those things are fine. The struggle that you are experiencing is yours to understand and to get through, and no one else can tell you how you should do it. So there we go, a little bit of honesty. I hope it wasn't too down for you. I do try to keep things as upbeat as possible here, particularly now because it's a hard time, but I don't want you to think that I'm skipping through quarantine, and if you're not, what's wrong with you? Because I'm not. Today's a good day. I didn't film yesterday because it wasn't a good day. I didn't have the brain space or the energy or the emotional resilience to do this. Today I do. Tomorrow I might not. I just want to be completely honest with you about how I'm feeling and what I'm feeling. And there we go. So that's it for this week. I hope you're staying safe, staying healthy and staying inside. And I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye.